The Gastarbeiter, or guest workers, were the first to arrive in Germany in the early 60s. They were followed by asylum seekers, Russian Germans, and now the Roma. Today, nearly 20% of the population have an immigrant background. Integration is often a problem. Neukölln, a district of Berlin, is notorious for this. The local mayor complains about the high numbers of uneducated immigrants mixed with the lower-class German population with no respect for the rules.
When a police officer says something, he's ridiculed. They try to steal his cap or his weapon. They even try to liberate convicts from prison. It's like a constant game of cowboys and Indians. Anyone who seems to have an official function because they wear a uniform, it could be even the Red Cross or a charity, automatically becomes a focus of aggression because they symbolize the despised native German population and are there to be defied.
Sie gehören zu den verhassten Deutschen, denen man es zeigen muss.
In some schools here, over 90% of the pupils are immigrant children, who often don't speak German when entering school at the age of 6, even if their parents grew up in Germany. A huge number of projects try to improve their chances. Job Start is one of them. It helps young immigrants as well as Germans with difficult backgrounds to graduate from school and find apprenticeships. Like many young Turks, Fatih Aydin searched desperately for an apprenticeship. It took him nearly 4 years.
I only got refusals. I was never even invited for an interview. I was quite appalled, and I realised that I needed help. I went to the employment office and they sent me to this association, and this is where I started to write applications again. They showed me how, and you can also practice job interviews with them. And then I was invited to 3 interviews. They all went very well, and now I have an apprenticeship.
The association's social worker visits companies directly to create a personal contact and encourage employers to interview somebody they would normally reject immediately. She's placed 23 youngsters in 6 months, though hundreds are seeking an apprenticeship.
23 youngsters who would successfully pass the apprenticeship and who hopefully will be employed by the company afterwards can save a lot of social transfer costs to the state. So 23 is a success. Because these young people feel like they're being taken seriously, they can develop within the company and forge their own paths.
This children's meeting place lies in one of the socially deprived hotspots. It helps kids learn German, do their homework and have social contact. Parents can get advice and are encouraged to take part in neighbourhood life. But the mayor complains that all these projects are short-term. Migration experts and social workers agree. More fundamental change is needed. He blames politicians for having denied the failure of multiculturalism for too long and calls for mandatory nursery school and German lessons with sanctions for immigrant families if they don't comply.
Ansonsten gibt es keine Sozialhilfe.
If you don't do it, you won't get social welfare. But the minute you suggest this in Germany, you get labelled as a Nazi. But isn't it a basic condition? How can somebody get involved in a society? How could he understand this society and assimilate its values if he doesn't speak the language?
While Neukölln rings alarm bells, Stuttgart in the wealthy south with a 40% immigrant population is proud of its Alliance for Integration program, which began in 2001. The program was used as a guideline model by the Council of Europe and was even awarded a UNESCO prize. The initiative helps young immigrants gain an apprenticeship in the public service. Croatian Daniela Brezanic finished her apprenticeship this year and now works in an administration office.
It was the post that I wanted, and I was very happy that I got it. I also often use my second mother tongue there, because we have a lot of citizens from the former Yugoslavia in Stuttgart.
The town considers immigrants as potential and addresses them in their different languages. Some of them can't imagine that as foreigners they can work in the public service.
Also, dass man in Deutschland keine familiären Beziehungen braucht, im öffentlichen Dienst unterzukommen.
They can't imagine that you don't need family connections to get a good job in the public service, that you don't need a guarantor of good repute, that you don't even need German nationality to work here. So sometimes they themselves have prejudices based on their experience of the public sector in their native countries, that it has a bad reputation, that you need personal connections to get in. Prejudices that we could dispel in a one-to-one conversation.
Und das sind Dinge, die wir dann einfach auch ganz viel im persönlichen Gespräch ausräumen konnten.
The idea of the alliance is to engage migrants, administration, the economy and non-migrant citizens, and to encourage volunteers.
Du siehst das auch? Der Kranich aß langsam und genoss jeden Bissen. Lieber Fuchs, hab vielen Dank, dass du zu mir zu Besuch gekommen bist.
So-called voluntary godparents help with administrative matters and read to children, not only in German but also, for example, in Turkish, like Sibel Yüksel does, to first of all create a solid basis in the child's mother tongue.
The great thing about our project is that we not only promote the linguistic capacity of the children, but also bring books and the culture of reading into families. We offer books to the kids and drum it into them that they should ask their parents to read the books to them before going to bed. And the kids do it. And it is very nice to hear the parents saying that this never occurred to them, but that now, when the child asks, they read something almost every evening.
A model immigrant, Yüksel once applied to work at the Federal Office for the Protection of the Constitution, but was refused on account of her Turkish origins. She's now a lawyer.
I feel like a Stuttgarter. I'm enthusiastic about this town. Our former mayor said something very true. He said we need a welcoming culture. And I think that Stuttgart really does manage to provide this type of warm culture.
Which, of course, is less difficult in a flourishing city with big car companies than in regions with high unemployment. In general, at national level, demographics researchers state that immigrants are still disadvantaged and get left behind, particularly in education, the key to integration. But there's room for optimism.
Deutschland ist auf einem guten Weg.
Germany is on the right path to improving integration. At communal and federal state level especially, politicians are dealing with the problem quite practically. They now have it in their heads that something has to be done. At national level, I wish policy would promote diversity in Germany in a more unified way.
With a shrinking domestic population and manpower running short, Germany knows it needs immigrants and their children in the long term, but well-qualified ones. But when the problem gets too big, politicians will change direction, according to Neukölln's mayor. He anticipates a future immigrant majority.
In the year 2100, there will be 46 million inhabitants in Germany, among them 26 million immigrants and their offspring. What if integration doesn't have a chance to work? What would that mean?